Hi, my name is Becky Rose, and I've had another question on After Forever After, which is a really good question. It's really good for a way that perhaps somebody who's never written an RPG might not realise. It is incredibly difficult to write magic spells for an RPG game. You see, the problem is severalfold. Firstly, have you ever looked at the number of spells that are in popular role-playing games? It's endless. Really, it takes so much work to write the spells. It is what breaks most authors' backs when they're trying to write an RPG. I do remember playing. Somebody had done this, it was for what was the system called Savage Worlds, and somebody had done this high fantasy game, or mod for Savage Worlds, and they'd basically taken orcs, elves and humans and reskinned them, called them something else, and then it got to the magic, and they'd given up. Basically what they said was, you make up your own spells. That was it. Make up your own spells. There was about a page of rules defining the limits on what your spells could do, but no, it's a half-hearted effort. But I do understand why. I was a beta tester on that game, and my feedback was, write a magic system or you've not written a fantasy game, and frankly these are orcs, elves and humans, so why not call them that? But the thing is, writing a magic system is hard. In After Forever After, I've gone for a classless game. That means you don't have a wizard, a cleric, a druid, and those other archetypes, which means I don't need to do spell lists for many different classes of caster, which is hugely beneficial when you're writing your spell list. What I've got instead is elemental magic. So the base 4 elements, fire, earth, air and water, all have spells. Now one of the things that often breaks in role-playing games is high-level play. You look at most role-playing games and they become unplayable at high level. In fact, I even did a bit of a rant video about D&D a year or so ago. So in After Forever After, I've tried to be a bit more restrained in just how powerful you can get. And again, this makes the magic list a little easier to write. So I have 4 magic lines, and I have power level that sort of stops in what other games might consider the mid-game. And this makes it quite an achievable process. But at the same time, that kind of leaves you with too few spells. So I did something a bit cunning. What I've done is each spell has a different potency at different skill levels. So as you gain power in a particular elemental spell line, you get more powerful versions of the same spell. This means that for me, one spell might have as many as 8 or more versions. They're the same spell, they're the same writer. So it made it much easier to produce a spell list when I only had to create, I haven't counted them, but in the base elemental lines there's probably 40 odd spells. But even that didn't quite feel like enough, even with all the variants giving effectively hundreds of spells. So I thought, what about going between elements? You know, every elemental combination makes another element, a secondary element. You add earth and air together, you get dust. You add fire and water together, you get steam. So I haven't written these yet, but there are going to be bonus spells for the secondary elemental lines. There won't be as many in these secondary lines as they are effectively bonus spells for really powerful mages who master more than one elemental line. The magic system itself is really quite interesting. And I'm going to pull out a deck of cards for this. Again, these are prototype cards, so don't judge me. So, when you're creating a magic user and you decide you want to put some of your skill points into magic, magic in After Forever After is random and wild. It's a little hard to control. So what you do is you pull a number of cards off the deck. I'll discard one pseudo to explain right now, but I just pulled 2 cards here. I've got the 5 of Earth and I've got the 0 of Fire and Water. I now have the choice. I can spend 5 points and get 1 skill in Earth, or I can spend no points and get a skill in both Fire and Water. And that's something I missed, by the way, when I discussed the cards, is that I do also have zeros. And yes, there's some writing on that card, but we'll worry about that another time. So, High Elves, of course, are particularly attuned with magic, so when they draw a card, they pull 3. And in this case, I now have a choice. I can spend 8 points on Fire and Water, 8 points on Earth and Air, or, for free, I can get 1 in every elemental line, which will probably give me a few bonus spells as well. So between all the elemental lines, between all the spell bonuses, between the fact that different spells gain power as you gain more skill in a particular elemental line, and between the fact that, as well as a spell system, there's also a trick system, which is like a smaller version of the spells that doesn't use any mana and allows you to keep casting them. There are a lot of spells, but despite the number of spells in the game, I actually haven't had to do that much writing, and that was how I've been able to accomplish writing a magic system in a fantasy role-playing game without it destroying my soul. So if you have a question about After Forever After, please feel free to ask it. You can ask in the comments section, you can ask me on Twitter or Facebook, the links for which you can find on the channel page of my YouTube. I hope you're enjoying these videos. They're not intended to be a way to sell you my game. They're intended to be a discussion of the process of designing a game, but of course I'm revealing things about my game as I go along. I'm not intending to use these videos as a platform for selling lots of copies of my game. I mean, genuinely, if I sell 50 copies of this game, for me that would be fantastic. That would be an amazing thing. I'm doing it for the process, for the love of creating an RPG, and I hope that some of you get to play it and enjoy it. You see, the thing about After Forever After is every time I get to work on a section of the book, I have tried to reimagine that. I've tried to approach it from a different direction to how all other games have approached that particular thing, whatever part I'm writing. And in doing that, I hope that the game, even if it doesn't succeed in its own right, I hope it is at least influential, that it has ideas that inspires others.